Go ahead and start streaming. Hi, everybody. How's it going? Oh, hope you're doing well where you're at. Just making sure we've got. Hey, I see Ricardo's on the list. Nice. See Charlie. Got a good roster coming today. Got a good roster on the docket. Just checking a few things out before we get this started, and there's Ricardo Lopez right there. All right. Boom. It's always good to have students back, and that's, while I'm waiting on Couchbot to fire, that is one of the funnest things that I think I've really discovered about doing NewPragmatic is there's a high volume of return customers, folks that go through the program, come out the other side, get that job, and then come back to do further growth. Or you're going through the program, you need to take a break because life gets in the way, and then a couple months later, you come back because you're ready to restart. I think it's something that with other education platforms I've worked on, helped build, people couldn't do that. It was like you had to go through in a set pace, and if you didn't finish, well, you were just out, $8,000, $10,000, and I never really, I understand from a VP, not a VP, but a VC perspective, why that's attractive, because hey, I'm gonna use that pressure of money to get you to move. It's unnecessary. It's just an unnecessary pressure, and I think we all do better when we have just a teeny bit less pressure in our lives, really. So, not to get all philosophical with you before we start the loop, but I think it's really important that we have an opportunity to breathe when necessary. And what I found is that you're appreciative of that, because we've got Ricardo back, we've got Ruby back, we've got Kara back this week, and it's Monday, so I'm super excited. We're going to have, and looks like Couchbot is fired, so we've got an exciting docket lined up today. So I'm going to go ahead and get this underway so that we can move forward, because we got a lot of stuff to look at. Greetings one and all, Chris Courtney here, NewPragmatic's time for that feedback loop. So good to have you along. Today we've got, let's see here. Well, first of all, welcome back Ruby, welcome back Ricardo, welcome back Kara. It's nice to see you all back in the fold. If you're not familiar with NewPragmatic, in fact, NewPragmatic is really month to month for anybody going through the program. And if you need to take a little bit of break, take that break. Come back and finish up what you were working on a little bit later. I feel it makes things flexible for people, and I've been really focused on trying to make an educational program that is flexible and works around what you've got going on. So that said, oh, by the way, I understand it's Gus's birthday, maybe there's like a puppy birthday coming up, and then Ruby got a new dog, so we should have lots of fur baby pictures in the Discord, so keep an eye out for that. I'm super excited, and Gus wears a bow tie thing, so that's great. Anyway, aside from that, we've got today Bryn, we've got Luigi, and we've got Kara, all with work, all in different areas to look at this morning. So without further ado, I'm going to get this started, but just like Kara and Ricardo and Ruby, if you're looking for mentorship, I know exactly where you can find it. And that's where I splice it. Anyway, that's for the recording. Anyway, I'll go ahead and share my screen. All right. Let's see here. Well, that's just a picture of me, so we don't need that. What we need is this. All right, so Bryn has She's submitted some work. She's finished her flows, and I say finished her flows because when we when you start connecting those flows together, like you've got these different pages. When you start connecting them together, there's always one piece of it missing. So just like, yeah, we finished them, but we're about to find out. So with that said, let's come over here and take a look at this. I'm gonna hide. Yeah, there we go. And let's come on in and take a peek at what we've got. Okay, so you've got your home page, and we've kind of talked about this browser store, sign up for free. You've made some adjustments. Here you've got your FAQ. You come over, and this is the department dashboard. Like I've clicked on shop, and now I'm getting into the shop, into the various categories here. Here we've got new user, department. So I've clicked on maybe fruits and vegetables. I'm just kind of imagining the click because it has been wired. It hasn't. The wireframes have been created, but it has not been, the noodles have not been drawn in the prototype. Somebody called it noodling the other day, and I like little pieces of spaghetti that you stretch from one to the next. I thought that was adorable. Okay, so it looks like you've gone with okay, so you've got a couple of lines in there for the name, price, amount, by amount. So this is like amount per pound or per ounce, however packaging, however these food items are priced, by weight or by volume. The one thing you've added here is like there's a popover. I'm guessing that if I've selected one of the items, I get this popover. I also see a frequency, like if I click subscribe, it looks like I then get another popover. Just careful of that, because the popover that leads to another popover is sometimes troublesome. Well, it's often troublesome, to be completely honest. So, like, I would encourage you to think about, okay, so what can I do in one level of abstraction? Do I need a popover and then another popover? I think there's a way to streamline this. And it may be a situation where you have to put it in the cart before you can then adjust how you might want to subscribe to it. But that's something to think about. Here you've got your menu, and you've mentioned the menu before. Basically, I hover over shop, and I get this long menu down. I wonder... I see the expansion, and I wonder if meat, seafood, bakery, bread, cakes, I'm just wondering if this is adding enough information to the side. Should this be fruit, comma, vegetables, comma, other things, meat, comma, seafood, comma. I'm essentially wondering if it should be listed or if it should be more in a paragraph form over here, so that it could be more substantial. But I mean, it's fine. I just don't know if it's adding enough right now. That's my immediate take on it. I'm always interested in testing these ideas, though. So like I would want to test this and see, okay, how do people react to it? Do they find it to be helpful? Because right now, if I click on shop, I'm going to get this, and I'm guessing as I come down, I'm going to get this expansion, and what is that? It's not going to go in and out it shouldn't go fruit and vegetable, and when I get here, it closes, and then I have to come back over and meat and seafood. So this is going to be just, if I'm over this at all, like the moment I come over here, it should slide out and give me more detail. And then my other question is, like, should it just start like this? Like, does it have to, does it have to be to the be skinny and then to the side? Should produce just be to the side to begin with? I don't know. Um, I know that you're going to need some sort of drop down. I'm just not sure if this is the answer, and that's why we test these things. So I think it's good that you have it. I'm not sure it's right. It is. I think it is better than where you were though. Um, as we keep looking here, so okay, so now I've searched for apples. I'm getting apples. I'm clicking on this. That's probably going to take me up to here. Um, and then okay, so I've got my cart and I've got my items. I do wonder if the cart needs to be like, the thing about a grocery order is there's typically lots of things inside of it. This is a little different than an e-commerce play. Like, you go to Amazon, you buy two things. There's two things in the left rail, and then you can check out. I really think you're probably going to have a situation where there might be 20 things, and that's going to scroll forever. So a couple of ideas here. Are there two views, where one view is if there's 4 items or less, display it like this. If there's 4 items or more, display it this other way that allows you to put more on the screen. And maybe instead of being 1, 2, 3, 4 columns wide, maybe each of these is in like a 2 column, like this right now is 8, but it's really, if you divide that by 2, it's 4. What if these were just 2 of these skinny columns and tall, but then you get 4 across, and you could put roughly 12 items where you currently have 4. Just thinking I'm thinking in terms of volume, what you may experience. That's a little different than most e-commerce shopping items. So, we got this. You hit checkout. You've got your subtitle up here, which is fine. All right, so I'm entering my contact information, shipping, billing. Okay, so I'm basically it seems like I'm creating an account right now. So my question there would be, is this, like, when I hit this, let's make it official, and we enter the email address, and then we get into contact information, all that. Should that be happening here? I'm not sure. I think, again, this is, how does it test with your audience? I do like the fact that you're pushing this further downstream. And the other question I have is, if I hit this X, like, where do I go? Like, do I bounce back over here to this? And I have an account because I gave you my email, but now I'm going through and, from that perspective, I kind of like it, because it's like, okay, so I give you my email address, and that allows me to start the process. But then I've got to give you my contact information, shipping. So you're only asking for things as you need them, which that aligns with the principles of what I want to do if I'm building an e-commerce site. One bit here, though, I noticed, right now, your order like, this is review your order, and your order totals on the left with the place my order button here. But I'm wanting to review my order, okay? So I've got my summary all the way over to the right. I've got my information over here in the middle. It seems like this needs to flip, in that if I'm going to review things, like, this should be at the end of that process. This should be at the beginning. And then I would also want to be paying close attention, like, just from a structural standpoint. Like, I want this stuff to line up, like, directly with the grid. I want to take advantage of the fact that I've got a grid to work with there. And this is also an interesting thing. It's like, do I allow for adding items and stuff here, or should that be like, oh, I'm going to edit it just like it is here? And is there a right answer to that? Possibly. I don't necessarily know if I have it though right now, but I do think the order of the information should switch, and then I would consider like, okay, is this a situation where to edit these things I need to get in, just like you're doing here. I need to go in and have a larger screen where I can see all the stuff. So just something to think about there. It looks like you've got kind of the same sort of stuff here. This is edit the order, new order. Again, it seems like this is just reversed. So I would switch that up. And this is your subscriptions panel. And here is the frequency change. Yeah, okay. So overall, you've got a lot of good here. I think there's a couple of spots where I think you're going to have tweaks, but I think now, I would suggest making the information architecture tweak. I shouldn't say architecture because that's the overall site. The information design tweak for how the information showing up on the page on this checkout, I would flip it. I would consider a more reduced, like how do I get more items in if it's over a certain amount, certain number of items to display, and then that dual modal thing. The dual modal thing is that's the one like that's a real UX usability issue waiting to happen. So think about those things, but otherwise, I think this is in a really great spot to test. You could like noodle it together and test it right now. But there are a couple of spots that I would go tweak before doing that. All right, let's get back here, and let's head over to Kara real fast. I'm kind of reviewing them as they were submitted, and Kara's doing some stakeholder work for a new client of hers, and she's basically doing a website for a dentist, and this is interesting because this is not a dentist in the way that like, oh, I need to get my teeth cleaned. This is a dentist that like, oh, you need a root canal, and they're like a specialist that other dentists or basically dentists and insurance companies refer people to go to this place. As somebody who's had some dental work done like that, I kind of understand like this doesn't necessarily have a situation where they're marketing directly to like, oh, we need new customers. No, customers are referred to them. But that's also an interesting problem because even though people are referred to them, that doesn't mean that they're the only place that people are referred to. Okay? Typically, if somebody gives you a referral, they can say, oh, you can go here, or you can go here, or you can go here. And of course, what you do to help you make that decision is you begin looking at the organizations. You're like, okay, which one do I want to go to? I don't know anything about these places. I'm going to go research. That's what most consumers do, right? Well, in this case, they don't really have a site that reflects the quality of the business, all right? And if you know anything about dental work, this stuff is pretty expensive. So having a good first impression of the organization before you actually book an appointment and go to the office is important. And that's where the site comes in. The site is that first portal to somebody told me to consider going and spending money here, and trusting that I'm going to have a pain-free experience. That's the other thing. It's like, it's not just money. It's like, I literally don't want to be in pain, and if I'm not going to share their current site because their current site is scary. It's not scary. It's just old. It's just old. Let's just call it what it is. It's old. But if we came through and we said, okay, So they got an old website. Big deal, not a huge thing. Well, that's true, but it really comes down to what is their competition doing. And Kara, I'm really glad that you've gone through and you've kind of identified um, other their primary competitors and secondary competitors, and basically these are all people that are do the same type of procedures. Um, Now, you know, the the pricing does not shock me. The pricing on these sites is not clearly defined because it's like the sliding scale. It's medical. Okay, it's medical. It's insurance. It's foggy. Okay, you almost always have to like talk to them to get an idea what the price is, and they'll tell you that hey, every face is different. So, and I get it. Okay, um, This isn't like getting an oil change, but um, being able to go through and see and understand exactly how these competitor sites are working, and it looks like you've done the heuristics testing already, which is great. Um, and then you've got tired and boring, extremely outdated. Okay, so tired and boring is better than not being useful. Okay, but that's a pretty low bar, and these are their direct competitors. But this one, relaxing, makes you want to book an appointment. Pretty average. Doesn't dissuade, but it also doesn't distinguish. The site didn't make me feel good. It's a visual mess. This is what you want to have in your hip pocket as you go in to talk with. I saw in the other doc is like you have a call coming up Wednesday. Um, this basic understanding of what they already know as their competitors. All right, they already know that. Hey, have you seen who my competitors are? Do you know what I'm competing against? And having a cursory knowledge of, yeah, I reviewed their site and this one made me feel like this. This one is really good. It made me feel like this, and I believe that you should be aiming for over here. The one thing I like to do here when I'm sitting down with the client is I like to go screen grab these. I'm just going to I'll click on the one that you really liked. You thought this one was good. I haven't looked at it, so let's just take a look at it together. So this is one that you like. Okay, the root canal redefined, and you see the hand, and it's a little video playing here, and you scroll down, and there's the doc, and here's the treatments, and here's video of somebody saying, hey, it didn't kill me, and here's like the information that you need, and then you can go through and you can look at the different treatments that they have. Having an understanding of okay, so this is like the upper echelon of the dentist sites. I'm really interested to see this one. You said this one was a visual mess. And yeah, it just overwhelming. Lots of stuff. I totally get it. Doesn't shock me at all. This is pretty par for the course. Oh, they've got a nice carousel here. When you compare the two, clean, not so much, right? So totally get it. I understand what you're experiencing here, but the thing that I would do is I would screenshot all of these, and there's a really helpful tool inside of Firefox. If you come down and you say take screenshot, you can define it as the entire page. So save full page. If you just did save full page, it would do the whole thing. I'm now screenshotting the whole page, and there's a bit of an issue here. I think it's because we're recording, but you can't see that there. But it's definitely in there. But if you hit download, it should give us the whole page. It's trying to download that now. And there it is. We can open the file and see what it gave us. Hopefully Hopefully it isn't eating up too much. Come on. Yeah, so there's the whole page. All right, so putting that on the screen for your client and letting them know, hey, here are all the things lined up side by side. It gives them a better sense that you're not only is it helpful to you because you can like see and contrast together instead of having a bunch of open tabs, but it also acts as a bellwether for your client to say, hey, this person really is paying attention. I know they had the spreadsheet, but I can actually see these things side by side. So it's one of the things that I like to do to put clients at ease. All right, so let's go over here to Luigi. And Luigi has been working on some CSS exercises. So again, like I said, everybody's kind of moving in different directions. So this is the CSS selectors exercise, and it's a responsive exercise that basically is centered around the idea of this. There's a lot of CSS frameworks out there that are basically created for you, and you can use them provided that you understand how to go through, look out for apply classes to HTML in such a way that it allows a design to basically appear. And this is a responsive design. Luigi didn't have to write any CSS or really structure any HTML. All they had to do is come through and apply classes. So if we take card and details away, so card basically just kind of wrecks this. But when we close this, now you'll see that everything kind of just gets crazy in regard to how it's being sized. It clearly doesn't work, and nobody wants to see that much Joe Exotic. Although I'm sure other people have seen more of Joe Exotic. I would not be among them. But if I say card gives us that gray background. If I say details provides the padding for the inside of that card, and now it's cleaner like the others. But what it really does is it allows us to it basically restructures in such a way that is works great on mobile devices. Okay, so those three cards side by side don't really work very well on small devices, but here they're working a lot better because there is responsive properties built right in here to both card, and really most of it is card. If I'm being completely honest with myself, most of it is right there in the fact that card is refactored for when it goes larger instead of having multiple columns. It goes to one, and that really cleans it up. I'm gonna close out of these. I think they're really dragging down my browser at the moment. Go with fewer tabs open, kids. That's my other advice for the day. Okay. We're going to close that down for just a bit. Okay. So your first exercise, Luigi, I think came off fine. You said you were missing something, but I don't see anything missing. So I would call this one done. Tiger King out of her hair. Let's take a look at this other one, because the other one is struggling a bit. So as with all of these files, all of these exercises, we can look at the finished file here. So let's open this in a new tab. All right, so what we're looking for is a card. It's got rounded edges at the top. It's got probably, if I was writing, I haven't looked at this in a minute, but if I was writing this, I would create an interior shape. I would give padding to the outside so that it basically stays within this. This probably is flex. So that I can basically say this stays to the top and this goes to the bottom, so space between, and then yeah. So, but most of this probably comes down to just where you're applying the structure. So if we look in here, I'm going to close that because that's just the dine-in curbside delivery items. The link here is this button down below, and really the thing that I want to do is I want to move that inside. Well, and when I do this, it should give me, so now I have equal spacing here, but something's going on over here. All right, so I want to take a look at that. We've got this class of flex, and then there's a div. So let's take a look at what we've got. So flex width is 44. Okay, so that's being applied to both of them, right? So what I'm really looking for is the div that's inside of. So here I see border radius and I see margin. I'm guessing that you've written margin in to give you the interior spacing. Yeah, okay. All right, so you're using margin, and that's fine. But now it's edge to edge, right? So what I'm going to look at doing here is margin. If I just say 30 pixels, now it's all even on all sides. Okay, there are other issues here too, but I'm going to change it to 20. I'm going to come back over and look at the model here. All right, so these are both, this is an interesting thing. These are both equally spaced. Like order now is locked in at the bottom, but there's different depths here. Okay? That tells me that I can't just say, "Oh, make these, 44 from the bottom." There's got to be something else going on to help get us to that space. Let's look and see what else you've got going on here. So I've got the button here, and okay, so margin bottom here is just this. The padding is for basically the space around order now. Okay. I want to understand better why this one is structured. These two are structured very different from one another, so I want to better understand what's going on. Oh, okay, so there's like, oh, well, never mind. This is just that other piece that's part of the section. So I'm just going to get rid of that for a second so we can view this. I'm also going to move this up. So now this is all spaced together, right? And it's responsive to some degree. And you can see that, like, the spacing is there. What I suspect we need to do here is so we have a div. And the spacing is there. How are we getting that? I mean, one thing you could do is you could just come in here and say display flex. And then flex direction column, and then flex. It's not flex spacing. What is the? I guess the problem I've got here is I don't necessarily. I don't really ask you to write that CSS. So it would seem to me. So flex direction column is already there. If we come down, so how are we getting this to lock into the bottom? Now I want to go back and look at the comments here because there's some instructions here. Well, there should have been some instructions. I'm going to go back into the original file because I am let's go over here. Yeah, we're going to leave this page. Just looking at one of the originals, and I apologize, my machine is really struggling this morning. Too much crap open, to be completely honest with you. Let's go in here and look at collections. Let's look at exercises. Let's look at restaurant. Yeah, okay. So this is interesting because flex is here. If you turn flex off, order now is going to pop up, right? Order now didn't pop up. Okay, so what's going on with the button? So this div, if I'd have said margin 30 pixels, should put everything all the way around. Okay, the border bottom stays right there. Is that? And we're wanting it to stay right there. Bare. All right, so if we contain is just the vertical width, or viewport width rather. That kicks in there. Button, if we said border radius 10 pixels, that's fine. I mean, we could always say that pushes it outside, so that breaks. Although, yeah, I gotta go read the prompt for this, but my suspicion is that we didn't do border box here. Box sizing, border box. And now if we come down and do that, it still pushed it outside. Interesting. Okay. Let's go back to the because I know this is a box model exercise. So you're down here on box model. That's corner radius and all of that, dressing up the edges. I just want to make sure I got the syntax right here. Box sizing, border box. Yeah, that's basically it. Okay. And then we've dressed up the edges. The main thing I'm wanting to do is just make that interior space function. And I would think that box sizing border box would force it to remain inside. And that just makes the button larger. Right, yep. Okay, that's operating as I would have anticipated. Something very simple that I'm not, I mean, it could be, that's what it is. So it wasn't going high enough up the chain, which means if we do this, we can get rid of the margin on the div. And this is a classic example of trying to make the adjustments as high up in the on the, you know, in CSS you can make adjustments further and further and further and further down the chain. Like if I wanted to go in and say, okay, well, I'm going to adjust Pole Express. I'm going to make that move over. I'm going to adjust the type of restaurant it is. I'm going to move that over. Or I could adjust the entire div. Or I could adjust flex, which flex is applying itself to everything that's inside of this container. So div cost flex here has the two divs. And what's important to realize, and I don't know if I fully realize this until we start looking at it, is there's two classes of div class flex here. So flex is focused on this, and right now its width is 44%. If I change it to 40, everything's going to move over, right? And now this other piece is like looping up there. But at 44%, this maintains its width. And what's interesting here is, you know, before we had this padding here, everything was off, right? And my first inclination was to, oh, well, I'll go into the div and I'll put margin 20 pixels, and that'll fix it, right? Yeah, but what happened? Why isn't that button working? Well, it's because the button is outside. Okay, so if I come back in here and I move it, it's here. Here's the problem, though. All right, I have a desire to have this at a consistent spot to where this content can grow and these buttons are at the same level. Okay, so I can't just move the button inside, because then I'm giving up the fact that I want this at a particular position in the experience, right? And you might be asking yourself, okay, so why does that matter? Well, when somebody's coming through, I don't want them, and they're kind of scanning across. If the moment that they they want to order, I want their cursor or their finger, whatever stylus they're using, I want them to already be there. I don't want them to have to adjust at all. So that's why this is constructed in such a way to have these buttons at the same level all the way across. But how do we get there? Well, that's where you adjust as high up on the chain as you can. So if I say padding 30 pixels, it's just going to be 30 pixels around the whole thing. And you get rid of this brittleness that's being impacted at the div level. And you might be asking yourself, okay, so Chris, why do we have class of flex on a div and then another div? It's because I want all of this information to be organized together, separate from the button below. Okay, so if we have the button organized with that information, I can't get the spacing, and that's one of the things that flex is doing for me. If we get rid of flex for a second. It's hanging together pretty well, actually. Bring that back in. Oh, weird. Okay, so then it worked. So flex column, basically what this is doing is it's saying, okay, you're at the beginning and you're at the end. Flex itself, if you take it away, doesn't do just a ton. Also, this is struggling because it's wanting CodePen sometimes struggles to keep up. But if we say flex direction, it moves it from being displayed in a row to being displayed in a column. By being displayed in a column, flex is always going to say, all right, if I've got two things in the column, place this thing at the very top and place this thing at the bottom, whatever the depth was. So if I said the depth of this div was, if I said it was 500, and that we're going to go with, instead of min height, we're just going to go with height. You see it just automatically goes there. If I come through and for whatever reason, let's say I put this H2 outside of the div. We have Polo Express. All right. So this is all hanging together actually surprisingly well. Actually, I want this to be down here after. It's going all the way to the end. It's interesting. It's interesting. I don't recall that working that way. But let's see if we can break this further. Well, let's just leave it at that. Let's just leave it there for now. So you've got It's display flex. Okay. And column is controlling how that's displaying inside of the unit, right? There were other things. There were other aspects of this that you had right? So you had, and of course that's not updating again. You had the border, you had the upper corners, you had the box shadow. Like, you had all that right. It was just the spacing. So focus on making those adjustments as high up as you can, and you'll be good to go. That's really all there is to it. So I'm gonna fix this real quick so that I don't give away the goose. Other people, this is the live file, so if I save it without making that adjustment, everybody gets the fix. All right, so that's going to do it for that. Yikes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes I forget how my own files are structured. But, when you've got, 80 exercises, you forget some of this stuff. But it's also always helpful to go back and look at the source material and say, okay, what were we trying to do in this exercise? And what we were trying to do in that exercise is use the box model. And part of using the box model is understanding that if I'm going to make adjustments, I want to make those adjustments as high up in the file as I can. Okay, I don't want to make it at the button level. I want to make it at the container level. I want to make it at the whatever shape is holding that design together. Make those spacing adjustments there. Don't make it down on a button that's inside of that shape. Anyway, this is a principle that we'll talk about over and over and over again. All right, for the rest of you, hey, we saw some great work from Bren. She's working through her wireframes. We also, looks like YouTube is struggling. Maybe it's just my machine that's struggling. Yeah, we're just going to let this come along. Maybe it'll fix itself. Live streams, folks. Live streams. Let's just wrap it up. Let's just wrap it up because it appears that this has gotten a little herky-jerky here at the end. But I hope this has been helpful for you. It's always helpful for me to